My parents sent my sister to a camp and used my money for it.
I feel like you should have to go too now, right?
Trigger warning for extreme homophobia and conversion camp. I work as a computer engineer and live away from my parents. I moved out when I was 18, not because we had a particularly distant relationship, but because I was very hungry for independence and I didn't want to go to college like they wanted me to. I fell in love with programming and got a job a month after I graduated, and I've done that since. By the way, this comes from very, very, very upset 222, and you can submit your own stories on the r/OKStorytime subreddit. I'm Sophia.
And I'm Angie.
And OP says, I am extremely frugal, and I now make about $70K a year after taxes. Dang.
Nice.
Look at you. Go, Mr. Money Mustache. Both my parents are in traditional white-collar jobs that make significantly more money than I do, and they are horrific with money. When I was growing up, my parents were semi-religious, church on Easter and Christmas type of deal. Okay. So they're just Christmas Catholics.
Yeah.
And not particularly invested in it or politics. Somewhere in the last 3 or 4 years, they became interested in it. And in the last year in particular, regarding the last election especially, they have become some of the most religious and over-focused political people I've ever seen. I have tried distancing myself from this by refusing to talk about these issues over the phone at all. I could not disagree more with them. I think they have some very hateful views, but I've chosen not to engage them on it. Growing up, I was not close to my younger sister, mainly because of our age gap. However, she has grown up and is very pleasant to speak to. We have spoken on the phone daily. I speak to mom and dad much less frequently since she was around 14. I have not been exposed to too much of this because I intentionally tell both sides I don't want to talk about their drama, although I'm generally clear with my sister that I agree with her, but I don't want to badmouth her parents. My sister is a sapphic, which I have no issue with whatsoever, and my parents do not or did not know and would immediately be against. Ooh, now I'm wondering what type of camp they're sending her to.
Yeah, that's the first kind of camp that came to mind.
That was the first time that came to my mind.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, well, they're using OP's money for it.
It's just going to be a regular, summer camp, right?
Yeah, I feel like you should sue them if they stole your money to pay for that kind of camp.
Honestly.
We talked about this quite often. My sister also has political views completely at odds with my parents. She was in trouble for not supporting their favorite political candidate, you can probably guess who, but I encouraged her to swallow it and suck it up at home for her safety and sanity. She mentioned a few times in the last 2 months about wanting to come out to them, and I highly, highly discouraged it. I have heard both of my parents approve of a pastor who disowned his attracted to the same gender son and similar stories. I didn't want them to do that to her. I've offered to let her live with me when she turns 18, but imagine that being in the future. I made her promise not to do that, and she did. On her 16th birthday, she came out to them. I was a little angry with her over the phone. I didn't curse or scream or anything, but I was annoyed, but with sympathy for her position. I did chide her a bit, which I acknowledge was dumb. She was extremely mad at me and didn't call me for 4 days, which was a long time for us to not speak. We spoke afterwards, and I was much better, but things weren't going well. They didn't punt her out, but weren't speaking to her at all. Literally, she was screaming at them, and they just quietly went to the rooms, not saying a word, which is crazy for people who have kind of most of OP's life not been religious.
Yeah.
Like, these people are going to mass on Christmas and Easter.
Literally.
And that's it.
Even though they seem to be diving more into those same kind of conservative views, that's still, it's like you still can't use your religious background for a reason for that.
No, absolutely. That's my point. It's like, 1, shouldn't do that even if you are religious. 2, they just got religious.
Yeah.
So it's even more confusing.
Exactly.
They don't even have a leg to stand on here.
Right.
I offered to speak to them for her, and she begged me not to, so I did not, against my better judgment. My dad, a week later, called me over the phone. He said that he was sick and needed emergency money to have a procedure. Why do I think that's a lie? Why do I know what they're doing? He begged me not to tell mom or my sister he needed about 20 grand. I had refused the money in the past for a car loan and made it clear that I wasn't giving the money, but I did for this. Cautious, but ultimately trusting him not to lie about his own potential passing. I disagreed with him about a lot of things, but he had always been so steadfast about the importance of honesty. The thought of him lying about something like that seemed ridiculous, and I felt guilty for even thinking that. About another week after that, my sister stopped calling me. Oh no. I thought she was mad again for some reason, but she didn't answer at all. Oh no.
I'm so scared.
I was worried. I called my parents and asked about her after about a week, and they said she was being moody. They're lying. I thought they thought I didn't know about her identity or what was going on. I checked my Facebook that night, and I read a days-old message from one of her friends that explained that she had been trying to reach me and that my sister was taken from her house into a van and driven off by men in a program with her and my parents there before punting the friend out of the house. Oh my goodness.
My God.
Genuinely, these parents should be arrested. I think any parent that sends their child to conversion camp should be arrested.
Yeah.
I think that's child.
Absolutely.
Like, this is like,
No, it literally is.
No, yeah. It's
that,
just.
Oh my God. And also, that's just so terrifying for her, too, to be taken away in a van by just random men when she's 16 years old.
Well, there's other camps, too. They're just like outdoor camps.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. They're not specifically conversion camps, but it's like if your kid is acting up. These certain parents will send their kids to these outdoor school things, which is the same thing where you get carted off in the middle of the night and then you're not allowed to reach out to people and it's like terrible.
No,
like,
that absolutely is terrible. I think like that would only be reasonable if like, I don't know, the kid was like a danger to others or something
but
like
even
that.
then, these camps are not helping them. It's like the whole,
the
whole thing of like holes. You know,
right.
If you've seen that, like it's a little bit like that.
Yeah, the only thing I'm mostly focusing on like that method of taking them away. I mean, that's just so
so
dangerous,
traumatizing for a child that like in this situation has done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Her friend visited my parents' house several times and they eventually told her they sent her to a religious program. She didn't get the name. I called up my father and he denied it twice before admitting it after a long talk. I was so angry. They seriously have these religious camps that parents can send teens to anytime without committing a crime forever. I mean, he did commit a crime. He stole your money.
Yeah.
I didn't think it had anything to do with the money, but I looked it up after that and found out that these programs are generally very expensive. I called him up again and he admitted that's where the money went. I demanded that he let her out and he told me it was his money. That's so funny. That's so funny.
Oh my gosh.
I told him I'd never speak to him again, and he just ignored me. I tried calling him every few hours for the last several days when I found out, and they ignore almost all of my calls. He intentionally didn't tell me the name of the facility or camp, but I've done reading, and these are almost always dangerous places. I don't even know if she's in the US anymore. People pass away and get brainwashed at these places. I feel so guilty for giving them the ability to do this. I don't know the name of the camp, and I did technically give them the money. My only recourse at this point is to go tell everyone in their neighborhood what they did. I saw a Facebook post they made about sending my sister to a snooty Christian boarding school, and that's not what they did. I called the school they posted, and she isn't going there. They're very connected to the church suburban town community, and I think it would threaten them to have their image splattered with the truth. I would completely disown them now if it wasn't completely destroying my chances of getting her out. I'm at a loss. Please help me. And there are some relevant comments.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, right away, I think you could legally get at them.
Yeah.
Because they lied to you about the money.
Yeah.
That was under false pretenses. You thought that you were giving it to your father for a medical procedure.
Right.
It was not being used in that way.
Right.
It's tricky because he doesn't probably have any written statements saying that. Unfortunately, it's very hard to get a child out of this situation when the parents agree to it.
Right.
So, like, legally, it would be really hard for you to get her out of it.
Do we know how far away OP is from the parents?
No.
I'm just, like, thinking, like, if they're not answering calls or texts or anything like that, like, I'm thinking I'm going to go to them.
Yeah. I would definitely start there.
I mean, go to them to try to talk to them at all. Record the conversation to see, like, because he'll probably admit that that was your money that he used for that and that he doesn't have a medical reason.
Like, record it, be like, yeah, you said that you were using that to, like, save your life.
Yeah. Or, like, remind me why, you know, I gave you the money.
Remind me why. Yeah. Relevant comments. M. Churm says, this is very, very difficult. Under the law in most of the US, most of the world, parents have a right to decide how to raise their minor children. There are some facilities for brainwashing people out of being attracted to the same gender, which are so horrific that I have little better terms to describe them other than torture. In fact, a couple of US states have actually passed laws against these places, but that doesn't help much because parents have a right to send their children to someplace else that doesn't have such a restriction. There is very little you can do about it legally. On the other hand, there is a major legal issue where you do have leverage. From your description, it sounds like there is plausible argument that your father committed fraud to scam you out of $20,000. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way that OP can actually, do something here.
Something.
If you pursued this, there is a decent chance that you could get law enforcement involved, and it is not impossible that your father could be convicted of a felony for such a fraud. You certainly could sue to get the money back and could probably get a judgment to garnish his wages, seize his bank accounts, and so forth until you've been repaid. The most obvious thing to do would be, Dad, pull my sister out of that program and either let her live with you or else send her to live with me. If you don't, then I'll press charges and get you thrown in prison for fraud. Don't do that because that would be blackmail. At least I think it would, depending on the exact wording. With a very careful approach, it may be possible, depending on the exact details of the law on blackmail in your state, which I do not know well enough to advise you on, to get that same message across without actually committing blackmail. If I were to do such a thing, I would probably find a lawyer who could help me figure out how to use this without committing a felony of your own, because if I understand you correctly, you are not happy about the $20,000, but your real concern is for your sister. My heart goes out to you and her, and I wish you the best of fortune and a successful outcome. I mean, I don't think OP would have given the money if he couldn't afford it.
Sure.
So, obviously this was an extreme case, but obviously it's not about the money.
Yeah, he did mention towards the beginning that he was genuinely responsible with money.
Yeah.
Or generally.
He's a good saver. Yeah, so it's clearly it's not about the money, it's about his sister, and if this is the only way that he can get his sister back, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's worth mentioning that I do have 2 texts of him mentioning the need for money for the emergency and a short voicemail of him thanking me for the money.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, that's difficult because the emergency could be interpreted in different ways.
I guess so.
But yeah, definitely talk to a lawyer.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that would constitute proof or not, but I assume so. I would assume that he wouldn't be able to get a refund for the money anyway, and therefore unable to have the financial stuff to get her out quicker without going the quasi-blackmail route, so I don't know. Thank you very much. Mastermind says, I have a very strong feeling that you should just look for a lawyer because nothing that we recommend should be taken into consideration due to the serious nature of the situation. Find a lawyer to discuss if there is any way to gain custody of your sister, then talk to a GSA of some sort and find out what type of trauma she might end up dealing with and what to do if you get her, because who knows what they could be doing to her. And there is an update, but yeah, let's get into it because I just need her to get out of there.
I desperately do.
2 days later, I got an incredible amount of varying advice and support that I really appreciate. I explained the situation to my boss, who was very supportive, and gave me some time off without an issue to deal with this. Last night, I left home and drove to them. They live in another part of Florida, but we all live there, and tried having a rational conversation with them before I took it. I pointed out the things I was learning was regularly at these communities. I told them all the stuff I've learned about these places. I demonstrated that it wouldn't even change her identity or opinion, and they just called me a liar or ignored me. I have never seen my parents in a lower regard. I didn't even bring up the money because I had a feeling that if I mentioned it, he would punt me out. Both of them seemed incredibly nonchalant about the entire thing. Then I made an appointment with a lawyer, and then later, another. Both of them were LGBT friendly and had at least some experience with similar situations.
Oh, wow.
And both spent about an hour explaining to me how I am completely legally screwed due to the nature of the gift.
Oh, no.
And how it won't be interpreted as condition. And that I have absolutely zero legal grounds in getting my sister out, and that without even the name of the place, I can literally do nothing. I'm completely screwed.
No.
Well, that's not great.
This is heartbreaking.
This is terrible.
Oh my God.
I do want to say, just props to OP for finding out 4 days after it happened and doing literally everything in his power to get his sister out of there.
Right. I feel like if legally you can't do anything
don't stop fighting.
For sure. I feel like what you could possibly do now is try to get research and get, articles talking about it, videos talking about it, anything that you can get that talks about any sort of conversion therapy and present that to them and be like, regardless of if, you know, she's or not, this is what's happening to her.
Yeah.
Like, she is hurting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because
and
it
like,
is like torture.
Maybe talk to other pastors and stuff, like people who would be on your side.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of like religious people who are very against this.
Right.
So like if you can get people who can kind of speak their language.
Right. Dude, find Bible verses.
Yeah.
Dude.
Be like,
yeah.
This says, this is all saying that's bad.
Exactly.
One drilled into me that I should not post about this to their friends, or it may make any legal action that could be possible later impossible. But both basically told me there wasn't a thing to be done. I was at my wit's end and I had a last-ditch plan. I drove back to my father's home and told him I would give him my remaining savings, around $65K, but I lied and said $55K, so I'd have something, if he took her out of the camp and let her live with me. I was amazed that he would even consider it because I'd always considered him such a high moral figure, but he stepped in the room with my mother for 5 minutes and said yes, but only if I do not involve the police. I told him he would need to sign a contract and wait a few days, and he told me he may not have an issue with that, needs to think, but did not want her legally in my name, but she can live with me because he doesn't want to be on the bill for child support. I wanted to spit in his face, but I refrained. This just happened less than an hour ago. I made another appointment with another attorney tomorrow, but I don't think that this is possible, and I may not show up to his office. If I give him the money without any obligation to return it, he would just take it and do nothing. My idea at the moment is to agree to give the money without a contract as soon as she's out, and back at the house I see her, and then take her and move to another state with her until she graduates. I can keep working in my current job from online until I get a new one. My father basically gave the impression that he had completely disowned her anyway, and I don't think he would spend the money a second time to get her in another place, but obviously, I'm just guessing. Obviously, I cannot have a legal contract written where I buy custody of a minor. Can I have one where they promise not to send her to another institution like that? Like, she must go to and graduate from X high school or something, or you must return the money. Is there anything I can do to make this work in a way where she's out and with me, whether in my name with custody or not, and they don't have legal grounds to come and track us down and send her somewhere else? This sounds insane, but I'm insane. I'm so worried. I'm vomiting randomly from guilt and stress. I can't sleep, so I'm going to down a few sleeping pills so I can go to bed. Thank you very much. You've helped me immensely. It's disgusting how much the legal system can screw over innocent teens. I've never felt more angry during a 4th of July in my life. I don't know how we can profess freedom when stuff like this still happens and is legally justifiable. I mean, yeah, definitely keep going back to your lawyers. Tell them you got this new plan.
Yeah, see what you can do.
Yeah, but wow.
Right.
This is such a terrible
like,
situation.
Maybe something you can do somehow is be like, okay, yeah, like I said $55K, but like because of this and this and this, like we need to make these adjustments to our agreement, or else I'll give you half. I'll actually only give you, 20 more K. Well, I don't know, but that would still be, they still might just take that.
Yeah. Edit, we met and he detailed to me how I can easily go to jail with my plan and just how dumb it is. I'm not giving them any money, but he made it clear that I have no legal recourse to get her. This lawyer is useless. There is nothing I can do legally that will go anywhere. He advised me to try and settle this from a civil perspective. They won't listen to reason. I've never hated anyone more than them. I feel like I fell in a black hole. I don't see any way out. Oh my goodness, there's an update 25 days later.
Oh my gosh.
We're getting close to the end of the story, and I really hope that he gets her out of there.
Yeah.
This is terrifying.
Because here's the thing, okay? Yeah. If you can't technically do anything legal against the dad for that $20K that OP gave to him, then it's like, I feel like you could still do something here. Like, sure, I mean, a lawyer probably wouldn't, like, advise doing
you
it.
To do it, but like, if this is the only way, I would absolutely give my parents, the money. I'd just not tell the lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. I would just be part of our conversation. That'd be part of my civil, way to deal with it.
Yeah. There's an update 25 days later. This will be a short update, but the situation with my sister has ended on a positive note.
Oh, thank goodness.
It has been, quote unquote, resolved. I think the mods will remove this, but anyone who wants to know what happened will be able to see. Currently, I am in the hospital. I initially thought I had a bad flu from stress following the incident, but I wasn't getting better. Yesterday, I went to the doctor. She ordered me to the hospital for a spinal tap. I actually contracted bacterial meningitis.
Whoa.
So I'm not doing so well in that regard. I'm bored and feel like garbage, but I have free time, and I've been meaning to write because this was just resolved. If this isn't entirely coherent, I apologize. My brain is obviously a bit fried right now. This is going to be horribly shortened. I did not give my father any money, and we both basically ended up pretending that I never offered the money and that he never theoretically accepted it. I found out the camp she was staying in. My mother frequently needs computer help, and it was one of the terribly described religious therapy camps several states away. I found several horror stories online from people who have attended this camp, and I showed it to mom and dad and found a sympathetic religious figure from the community they both respected. I convinced them after much struggling to go pick her up with me. We did, and ended up flying there and picking her up with a lot of trouble. They didn't want to let me in at all and took an extremely long time letting her see us, which made my parents very, very mad. It's very hard to get people out of those camps.
Yeah, good that you're mad, of course.
They also don't let the kids send letters to their parents. Or if they do, they're very highly monitored, and it says, I'm happy here, I'm having a great time.
That's insane.
And so all the parents think, oh, my kid's fine.
Like, great.
When it's not at all true.
Oh my god.
Like in a lot of these outdoor schools, not specifically conversion camps, but just like these camps, they'll take pictures and tell the kids that they have to smile or they get like in trouble.
Oh my gosh.
And so you're only like, all these parents are only seeing the best, like,
right,
like
it's
good
just
stuff.
total isolation. And
My parents were very upset about the small parts of the facility we were allowed to see. They told us our sister would lie and that they should go without seeing her, which made them madder. I thought we were going to have to call the police, but we eventually got her out after many hours spent there. I was nervous she would yell at them, but she knew to pretend she had changed without me needing to tell her. Good. She's back home as of several days. I'm in the hospital as of yesterday. By the way, you can be with us and listen to full episodes of stories like this. Hopefully not quite like this. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeartRadio and search up OK Storytime. There is a little bit left to the story.
but things are turning out well.
Truly,
well enough.
I mean, she's out of there, but like genuinely, I would never talk to these parents ever again.
Never.
I wish that these people could get arrested.
Right. If I was OP,
Wow.
I would be like visiting as much as I can for the sister, of course.
Do we know exactly how old she is?
Well, she was 16 when she came out.
Okay.
And
so
I don't think this
around-
happened much
Yeah, so
soon,
she's probably
like-
around 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So young.
Wow. My parents are basically pretending they were tricked into the place being a 4-star resort and are laughing the whole thing off.
Oh my God.
Like they are equal victims in this, and this was all a wacky adventure where they stole my money and sent my sister to harmful conversion prison. Me and my sister have discussed it privately, and we've agreed that she will not make any waves until 18 and that she can live with me during college. Sadly, we still have 2 years until then. I despise my parents and cannot say a thing to them, which is infuriating. I hate their hypocrisy and BS, but we both have to swallow it for the moment. I am finished with them completely and plan to never speak to them again after she's 18. But that is the end of that story.
My mother stole my college funds, so I took her to court.
Arrest her!
I, 21 female, lost my dad suddenly 2 years ago. Oh my goodness. He struggled with heavy drinking, and our relationship wasn't always easy. We had drifted apart and weren't in contact for about 2 years before his passing. When he passed away at 54, it was still a complete shock since it felt so unexpected. By the way, this comes from Adorable Axolotl, and if you can submit your own stories to the r/OKStorytime subreddit. And I'm Angie.
I'm Sophia.
And OP says, my dad didn't have any other children. My parents were divorced, and I'm an only child without much extended family. That meant most of the funeral arrangements and estate decisions fell to me at a time when I was already grieving. Seeing how much I had on my plate, my mom stepped in to help by closing his bank account, explaining that there wasn't much left in it. I appreciated that support, even though she stayed fairly hands-off otherwise, partly because of their history together and partly because she's always been a bit distant emotionally. Just days after the funeral, she started complaining about my grief. She'd ask why I cared when he wasn't a good dad and told me I needed to care about the alive parent, not the passed away one.
I don't actually care at all about you.
Yeah.
You aren't a good parent either.
Yeah, not at all. Despite our estrangement, I was devastated by his passing. Part of me had always hoped that he'd overcome his regular use and return to us as a changed person. About a month later, my boyfriend, 27 male, then 24, and I were at his apartment collecting some paintings when my mom called from the hospital. She had a stroke. Oh my
Oh.
gosh. Due to the vid restrictions, only one person could visit, but fortunately she was recovering well despite some walking difficulties. My mom stayed hospitalized for about a week. On the first day, I was alone at home while my boyfriend returned to his place for student teaching obligations. That night was terrifying. I was still grieving my father deeply.
Yeah.
My mother had nearly passed away, and I had no local friends since we'd recently moved, and the vid made socializing impossible.
That's so tough. I mean, you're already isolating. Your partner's not there. Your dad just passed. Like, so many things all at once.
Absolutely. I spent the entire night having panic attacks and depressive episodes. The next day, seeing my struggle, my boyfriend decided I shouldn't be alone. Since he couldn't stay due to school, he brought me to his parents' house until my mom was discharged. His parents worked from home, so someone was always there while he taught. Meanwhile, my mom had her boyfriend visiting daily, so she wasn't alone either. Throughout her hospitalization, I called and texted daily and visited when possible. I can't drive, so I needed transportation. Once she was discharged, I returned home to care for her. She refused professional help, so I handled everything alone, which was fine by me. Stroke patients often experience short tempers and memory problems, so when she became angry for no apparent reason, I tried not to take it personally. After a couple weeks, her physical recovery progressed well, but her anger and short temper persisted. She constantly argued over trivial matters. Then we had the conversation that changed everything. She revealed that she had been holding a major grudge because she viewed my staying at my boyfriend's during her hospitalization as abandonment.
What?
No.
Huh?
There was no one else at home. It was just OP at home.
She's like, you weren't in our house that I wasn't in either.
Yeah, I feel so abandoned. It's
I'm abandoned.
like what?
You should be keeping the house warm.
Yeah. I explained my perspective, how I'd called daily, visited when possible, and needed emotional support too. She dismissed my feelings entirely, calling me an ungrateful daughter who only cared about the passed away parent, not the alive one. This devastated me because it echoed a lifelong pattern where my emotions were invalidated. As a child, when I was upset, she'd tell me to get over it or that it wasn't a big deal. Once during a panic attack, she shook me hard and yelled at me to stop. That'll help a panic attack for sure.
I think whenever your mom says, like, you abandoned me, you gotta go, no, I didn't.
Yeah. Stop.
Shut up.
Oh my gosh. Yet when my dad's wasted words hurt her feelings, she'd cry to me for comfort. I'd been forced to mature too early because of their dysfunction. Her hurtful words that day were the breaking point. I returned to my boyfriend's for several weeks until it was time to move into college dorms. Starting school was overwhelming. I was still grieving badly, experiencing frequent panic attacks in the unfamiliar dorm environment. I relied on my college fund, which my dad had established when I was born, to pay tuition. My mom controlled this fund, and when I texted asking when she'd make the payment, she became evasive and repeatedly saying that she'd get to it and not to worry. As the payment deadline approached, I realized she wasn't going to pay, leaving me facing a $15,000 bill with no means to cover it.
Ooh.
Yikes.
Big yikes.
I made the difficult decision to drop out. When I told her about missing the deadline, she said that she was disappointed in me again and that I couldn't move back home because I stressed her out too much and that I was...
I'm sorry. She's disappointed that you couldn't go to school because she didn't pay.
Yeah.
And also, you can't move home, even though this whole time she's been like, why aren't you home? You're abandoned.
Literally. And you're calling your daughter for what?
For her not being able to go to school that you were supposed to pay for?
Yeah, what? What, and like wanting housing from her parent? Like
Shocking, yeah.
Oh my gosh. She also threatened to take my dad's baseball card collection and paintings, the only physical mementos I'd retrieved from his apartment. I was devastated and ended up living with my boyfriend's parents again after explaining the situation. Over the next 6 months, I repeatedly tried contacting my mom about college fund and getting help with my dad's burial costs, but she never responded. My dad remains in an urn at my boyfriend's parents' house. She also removed me from her insurance immediately after punting me out. Wow, which I discovered painfully when I needed hospital treatment for a UTI. Oh my gosh.
This lady's terrible.
This is so much that OP has to deal with. The full impact hit me gradually. In just over a month, I'd essentially lost my entire family and became homeless. If my boyfriend had broken up with me, I would have had nowhere to go.
Thank goodness he didn't.
Yeah, honestly. After 6 months, I decided to attend community college and made one final attempt to discuss my college fund with my mom via text. She revealed that she'd returned to school herself. which I initially supported, assuming that she would use her own money. Then she dropped the bombshell.
Mm-hmm.
She was using my college fund for her education.
Can she even do that?
Yeah, I feel
If
like
it's in your name,
yeah, right?
you're supposed to use that college fund for your college.
That is so insane.
But you have it.
My goodness. I was shocked and furious. My mom had promised my entire life that I'd never have to worry about paying for college like she had. She already held a bachelor's degree with over 30 years of experience and had earned well over $100,000 annually at her last job. She could easily afford her own education and had never mentioned using my fund. When I asked how long she'd been using my money, I learned it had been 6 months since I dropped out.
Wow.
Heartbroken and angry, I texted, "How could you do this? Dad made that for me, and you promised that it was mine." She responded by calling me disgusting and money hungry, claiming that she needed it more than I did. Dude, what?
We literally know you don't.
Yeah.
And also, I don't care. You have a degree.
right.
OP's trying to get a degree.
It's like maybe if I had that money, I could be in college and not be so disappointing to you.
Literally.
Like, what? That was the final straw. I hired a lawyer to recover my college fund. Awesome.
Good.
And my father's assets. The legal process stretched over a year because my mom fought and stalled at every turn, turning what could have been resolved in months to an expensive, drawn-out battle. I arranged deferred payment with my lawyer and took out a loan to cover costs. Eventually, I won. The bank account my mom claimed had almost nothing actually contained around $90,000.
Dang.
I received $45,000 of that, plus my dad's portion of their retirement plans, the baseball card collection, which is worth approximately $50,000,
Ooh.
and the paintings. We also discovered that after punting me out, she'd taken a European vacation using the remainder of my college fund,
I don't think you can do that.
which she had to reimburse.
Yeah,
exactly.
because it's a college fund.
Yeah, what? As of today, I haven't spoken to my mother in over 2 years. I'm still waiting for the retirement agency to process the account transfers, so aside from the baseball cards and paintings, I haven't seen the money yet. My boyfriend and I moved into our own apartment. Nice. He's now a full-time teacher while I continue working through college with the help of financial aid. We're planning to marry once things settle down more, and I'm trying to figure out my place in the world and how to move forward. Well, that's lovely.
Yeah.
There are some comments, but okay.
Well, you know what? That was a whole freaking roller coaster.
Yeah.
We got
Getting
to
somewhere.
a seemingly good place.
Right. Haven't seen the money just yet, but I feel like it's on
I
its
feel
way.
I feel like we're right around the corner.
Yeah. I
From
feel
that
like
money.
wow. Dang, man. I
That
mean,
was
like,
truly so much just happened.
yeah. That's so relieving that, like, even though the dad was not a very good parent, it
He
seems,
still
he still had that, like, legal stuff set up for in his
great,
will.
which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
it's really saving her
very
now.
interesting that the mom is like, yeah, your dad wasn't even a good parent, and then she goes and does
Yeah.
this, and then we find out that the dad had all of these legal protections in place.
Right. It's like, what? But there are some comments. Comment number 1 says, I rarely actively root for another person's passing, but your mom has inspired me. I'm so relieved you got away from her. What a walking on the world she is. Commenter number 2 says, the audacity of that woman to call your father names when she's literally no better than him.
Yep.
I'm glad you didn't
She's
just
worse
leave
than
it.
him.
Yeah, honestly.
She's actively worse.
Right. She's still calling the OP names and
Yeah.
stuff, and like, you know, oh my gosh. I'm glad you didn't just leave it and fought for what was yours and your father's. She's a vile woman, and you will do well to remember this when she comes back around, because she will. By the way, I hope that you always come back around to listen to more full episodes of stories just like this one on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast app. Just type in OK Storytime. We'll be there for you.
We sure will.
We'll be there for you. There is a little update from a year later.
Ooh.
Do you have any final thoughts before we move on to that?
It seems like you handled that really well.
Yeah.
I mean, your mom sucks, and I probably would go low to no contact with her,
Right.
which I'm assuming you might have done that,
Right.
seeing as you literally had to sue her to get any of
Literally.
your stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're still in that relationship with your boyfriend.
Yeah.
He seemed like he was, really stepped up there. I hope you're getting your degree.
Yeah. So 1 year later, the legal matter is officially resolved, and I have
Yay.
received all the money. Yay!
Yay!
I am now engaged to my boyfriend, and we're getting married
Yay.
next year.
Yay!
Oh my gosh. I haven't spoken to or heard from my mom and have no plans to contact her. She's definitely not invited to the wedding. This situation leaves me with mixed emotions. On one hand, it's over. I no longer endure verbal for my mother and can live freely with my future husband. On the other hand, it saddens me that I no longer have a mother in my life, and I'm struck by how completely out of hand this became. I'm excited about this new chapter though. I plan to finish school and surround myself with friends who genuinely love me. I've even started selling my artwork on Etsy and at local art events.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to whatever life brings next.
That's the end of that story.